This is Ashley, Nicole Johnson Photography. I wanted to sort of walk through a whole wedding day experience with you, and I am already on the finished gallery. I won't be going through any sort of editing or anything like that, but this will give you insight into what I think on the day of and what the finished product ends up looking like. All right, so this was Katie and Casey's wedding. This was actually at a country club in Georgia. But so when I first arrive, first of all, if I haven't been to the venue before, I make sure to look around, or if anything may have changed, I look around. I try to get there early, minimum 10 minutes ahead of time. I try to get there even earlier so that if I need to show my second shooter around, they're familiar with the grounds and we're easily finding each other when we're splitting up and reuniting. So, a little bit before it starts, I like to connect with either the bride or the mother of the bride, whoever I've been communicating with. For this wedding, it was a little different. I was actually communicating mainly with the mother. And usually I don't like to do that. But this was a unique situation, and the mom was actually really wonderful to work with and very organized, but she did not micromanage at the same time. So I arrived and I get kind of settled. I set some of my bags down if I need to. I make sure to say hi to the bride, show my excitement for the day, and get her pumped. And then I ask for details. Sometimes I ask the bride, sometimes I ask mother of the bride, whoever kind of looks like they know what they're doing. I ask. This one I actually started with the dress. Now usually I have my second shooter to help me hang the dress because it's kind of scary hanging the dress alone. You don't want to mess up the dress at all for obvious reasons. But sometimes it can be heavy and you need to hold it way above your head so it doesn't wrinkle. I look around actually before I hang the dress. So I found a spot that would showcase, like right here, it'd showcase, she got married around Christmas time, but then it would allow me to go in for some of those closer shots and it won't be so Christmassy. This bride was very bent on not bringing her dress outside at all, which was fine because this venue was gorgeous and allowed a lot of places inside. I like to get a few different types of angles, kind of from the side, full dress, and I make sure to get those close-ups. I also, another thing to ask for, a lot of times they have the dress hanging in a bag on a separate hanger because those special hangers like you see here, or sometimes they have the wire one, like they put the wire Mrs. Whoever in the middle, and those aren't actually really great to hang the dress on, so most of the time they're hanging on a separate hanger beforehand. A good portion of the time they'll remember to bring out their special hanger, but if they don't have a special hanger or it's not provided, then I try to make sure to ask for a hanger. I also bring my own wooden hanger. I'm actually going to create a hanger like this where it's drawn on and stuff that says bride for those instances that there isn't a wooden hanger or isn't a nice hanger around, because a pretty dress on a not so pretty hanger can really ruin the aesthetic. So again, I get those closer shots, maybe one that's not so focused on the dress here. This dress is a little out of focus, and then you have the bride itself. Again, this is kind of similar. And then a lot of times I just see things happening and I'll snag it in between different things. Right now I was actually headed back into the room to grab the rings and different things. Sometimes the jewelry's already on them, so they don't really want those in the detail shots. But when I do arrive there, I do try to get detail shots. Now, there weren't a whole lot of details for this actual wedding itself, so my flat lays aren't really amazing, but you'll have different things to work with. And My favorite is when you look around and if the florist has left any extra petals or just any extra flowers or greenery. Those are really great to put. Like I would have loved to have like some greenery draping through here. But again, this is something I try to remind them to have their invitation, their ring set aside. I try to make sure I tell them ahead of time, hey, make sure you have his ring as well, so we're not doing a lot of back and forth, even if the boys are on site at the venue. So here are some examples. I know the flat lays are super popular right now. A lot of times I like to do a nice flat lay and get it going, and then do close shots where I focus on like different details, whether it be the shoes or the rings. Here's an example of me just, sometimes I'll keep them where they're at, and then other times like I'll put it in. I thought this was kind of nice with the close detail. For this shot, for the ring shot, I almost always pull out my 24-70 because that'll allow you to get nice and close. Those fixed lenses, a lot of times, the like 35 that I love to shoot with, just can't get that close, and I don't want to have to crop in later. I do crop in and reframe sometimes, a lot of times with ring shots, but I don't want to have to crop in that much. And then I find a good spot while I'm doing all these detail shots. I'm also looking for an ideal place for the bride, if she doesn't already have it picked out, for the bride to get ready, or in this case, to get in her dress. Now, a lot of times I show up when the bride's either really close to getting done or almost done. So let me jump forward a little bit. We had her pop back in the spot. She needed a few touch-ups anyways, but this way it'll really allow for me to get those photos of her getting touched up, so on and so forth. For the touch-up shots or the quote-unquote getting ready shots, I like to get some nice close ones that also show the hair and makeup artist, but it's not really necessary. I also like to get some from behind that really kind of show the styling of the hair. For example, this one was for the braid. If they have something in their hair, this would have been a really great one, like if she had some kind of hair piece. But regardless, it kind of shows off the detailing of the hair. And going back, we had a moment where she was just lingering anyways, waiting to get in for her touch-ups. So what I did is we found this nice mirror. I mean, I lucked out with this place. You don't know, like, I feel like at a lot of wedding venues I shoot at, it's not like you can turn every corner and it's just beautiful. This place was like that. But found a mirror, and I like to have them tilt their ear in and act like they're putting their earring on, whether they're actually currently putting it in or whether they just need to, reenact it. Adjusting the necklace, that's always really pretty. Now something also to note for photos like this more so happens maybe in warm weather where they've changed out of their robe or they're not wearing their robe. If you see something like that laying around, you can always tell them to throw it on for that, but most of the time they have it on already. Again, I love having pretty much the same shot, but how it can be so different when you have something zoomed out as opposed to zoomed in. For ones like this, when I'm inside, I'm pretty much almost always either using my 24-70 or my 35 millimeter. 20 pros to 24-70 is you can zoom in and out. You can easily not have to move your body a ton, and you can work around people really easily. But I have noticed the 35 can be a bit sharper, and that's kind of just the difference you get with a zoom versus a fixed lens in general. Pay attention to what's on your ceiling too. Like if I have like popcorn ceilings, I am not going to want that in a photo. These ceilings are very gorgeous. They have the crown molding. These lines kind of draw you into her body. I mean, this chandelier is gorgeous, so that color kind of wrapped up into this frame was really pretty. Another thing I play with is the perspective, let's go back. The perspective of whether I'm focused on her in real life, that sounds funny, but or her in the mirror. I don't really else know how to put that. But so here I'm more so focused on the mirror, her, instead of in person. But yeah, just having her do different things. Some really easy go-tos are these 3 ones are putting earrings on, adjusting necklace, kind of even looking down at that necklace. Now you do have to a lot of times give them direction here because it is something that they will start to feel very awkward because this is some of your first moments interacting with them. I mean, I've had brides that get so comfortable even during the engagement session, and then you show up and you're like, oh, can you do this? Give them some direction. Tell them to go through the motion. She's actually fully brushing her cheek here, so have her do that. That'll end up looking a lot more natural than if you're like, okay, pause at the cheekbone. And don't be afraid to ask her to do it twice if need be, if you miss the shot or whatever. Clients don't always have to know when you miss the shot. You can just say, let's do that one more time. If I mainly do this if the bridesmaids have special hangers, because that kind of shows they were thinking about that to begin with. The dress prior to them putting it on, they were thinking about that. The bride was when she purchased these. So, and this was also really easy. If your second shooter's still with you, sometimes you can multitask and have them. So for here, I help put like one up, but that's really easy to do together. Sometimes you can find a maid of honor or bridesmaid that is really helpful, and they kind of stick out early to begin with. And something to keep in mind, it's not always the maid of honor that is the most helpful or the most on top of things. A lot of times a maid of honor can be a sister, and they might be into it, or they might just be young and not know. I know when I was a maid of honor for my friend's wedding back when I was like 18, I didn't know what I was doing, and I know I wasn't very helpful. Now, the maid of honor at this wedding, she was on point. She was great. The bride really picked a great maid of honor. But I say that all to say, like, they might be able to help you with stuff like this too, and they'll kind of stick out when you're communicating with them. One thing I haven't been really great at, but it is really good to do, is start to learn their names. If you can, there's a lot going on the day of, so it's not like the biggest priority, but it can help later down the road. I get those, if there's details, the bride has thought about these details, she's purchased these details, they should be photographed. This was a moment I think the bride was becoming a little anxious about something that wasn't really known. I think I was a ways away. I was shooting, yeah, I was at a focal length of 70, so I was a little bit of ways away, giving them a little bit of space. And I think she was just breathing through it. I don't know if they were praying or what, but catching these moments as you're actually going throughout the wedding timeline also can be something that's a really good thing to do. It can really be those great details that help in the end. Again, just little things. I think I had like not quite a break, but we were just waiting on a few things to go through for our next timeline. So I was still shooting, and I wasn't just on my phone. I check my phone mainly to communicate with my second shooter, but other than that, I don't like to be on it because I feel like it sends a really bad message. I've actually stopped using second shooters before because they are on their phone too much. So if that tells you anything. Yeah, we looked at these already. Okay, so now we're kind of ready for some fun portraits, just different stuff. This was her maid of honor, just helping her with different things. That was nice. We had a gap, so I don't always do this, but I did pull the bride out. She had such a beautiful robe. that was very bride-like, and it wasn't too showing, so I knew she was going to still like the photos. I just went to the window I hung her dress at, and I did a few different things. Again, this is the same exact pose, just reframed. Keep in mind, they say that 70, the focal length of 70 is like the most flattering, and that 50 millimeters is what the eye sees. I don't always go by that. So here it's like a 45, so I probably stepped back a little bit more, but then also zoomed out. This is 70, so that is very flattering. Those are great for portraits too. But move your body. I think that's one of the biggest things photographers try to rely when they do a zoom, when they have a zoom on their camera and they only work with a zoom lens. They rely too much on that zoom and they don't move their body. I have that on for weddings a lot of the time because sometimes I don't get the luxury of moving or need to be able to change my focal length really quick. So when I have like something like this, I would do possibly in like a 35 or a 50 millimeter prime lens, but I think I had the 24 to 70 on and it was just working for me for that day. I don't really have like a rule of thumb for this kind of thing. I just kind of do what feels right sometimes in the moment, to be completely honest. Again, this is 45, so what I did is I just came in with her. I, communicate, and during this time, not only am I photographing her, I'm giving her directions, look down, look at me, look out the window. Sometimes I'm telling her to take a few breaths. I really liked this one of her sitting and glancing out, kind of waiting. You can kind of see the anticipation. She was growing a little nervous the day of. There was some family. I think her grandma was having trouble walking, or his grandma, and she just was worrying about that. So I just sat with her, kind of told her, I get it, you're a caregiver, but everyone's going to be fine. Everyone's here to help you, and you don't have to be the one that always helps grandma. Grandma will have plenty of people. And I kind of tell her to take a few breaths. Now, I'm really going in deep here. I'm not just talking about photos because a wedding day especially, but any kind of portrait photography, you have to be able to connect with people to get the best out of them. So this was kind of just some quiet time for her. I saw her back when she was talking to her friend, getting a little bit not worked up, but getting a little bit tiny bit stressed out, so I just wanted to take her away from that, give her some breathers, and sometimes you can be that for the bride on the day of, and it can be something that they kind of need. This is actually going to kind of go intertwine. This is when I send my second shooter off now. This wedding, you won't see a whole lot of them getting ready because at this country club, it was really strict and they did not allow females into the guy's locker room. So that was kind of a roadblock, but it was okay because that wasn't super important to Katie in this one. We were not setting up. I'm sorry. That happened later. But what we were doing is we were waiting for her dad. She just wanted to walk out and kind of say hey to her dad. Like little things are happening throughout the day. A lot of times you are just a voyeur and someone who is capturing the moment, and other times you are hand holding. And it's really, I don't know if that's something that can be learned or not, but just kind of having some of that intuition and learning some of those vibes on when to interact with your clients and when to kind of take a step back and let things happen. Just some fun bubbly. I let the girls know, hey, if we're gonna take some robe photos, let's make sure to get those mimosas filled or whatever you're drinking, have something to cheers, and ideally it would have been nice to have like a little champagne glass, but this worked for what we needed. We went to another part of the house that me and my second shooter had scoped out. At this point, my second shooter is not with me. I'm just hanging with the girls, and that's usually what I do, and I send my second shooter, and I've trained them to go off and handle the guys' photos. So here I was just walking through. I thought this looked really pretty, so I just yelled for her to turn around. This was really pretty and a good spot. I try to get them all sitting usually on a bed or a couch that I see available. And sometimes it's a little crammed, but that can be okay for girls. It's kind of harder for guys sometimes. So we did a fun cheers. Sometimes I make the joke of everyone look and laugh at each other. You know, don't act like you haven't done that Instagram laughing photo before. And sometimes that actually goes into like more real laughter. Just a nice portrait, have them put their drinks away. Now, I'm not always concerned. I know a lot of photographers sometimes are concerned with having every single person perfectly in focus. A lot of times I compromise that for getting that nice 2.8 aperture and allowing that light to come in. I feel like as long as I'm mainly focused on the bride, we are good and she's not like crazy out of focus, but you can see there is some, like she's not super sharp in this photo, but most of the girls are. Here's another one. I have them stand up, put their arms around each other, get cozy. Oh, another thing to look for is if they have like, I don't think I was showing their feet. Yeah, so I had them go barefoot. You look for any like weird sandals. Sometimes people are wearing full out pants underneath their robes, so if you see them walking out like that, just mainly remind them, hey, let's do, just the robes. Obviously, usually I check in and be like, if you're comfortable with that, because you never know what someone's reason is for not doing something, and things can get awkward. All right, again, same type of stuff, different perspective, a lot of changing from portrait to landscape, wide. For this one, I also made sure to looking back, okay, this was right around Christmas. This was literally like, I want to say maybe a week before Christmas, but at the same time, you don't want every shot to be Christmas because you want their wedding to look timeless, but also represent the time that they did get married. Okay, well, this is another one. I had them walking back up. Now, the robe photos aren't something always that happen. If they don't have matching robes, sometimes we just don't do that, or we make it shorter. But again, it's those details, looking out for those details that the bride put in to her wedding day, and making sure to capture them. I am actually going to stop right here and make this a part 1. All right, so next section will be us talking about the guys and the guys getting ready photos, and then we'll go into the bride getting into her dress, who should be there, who should not be there, so on and so forth.